What's going on, party people? It's your boy back again with another bullshit video. Yeah, you didn't think I'd drop this quickly, huh? You thought I was just gonna delay it for another week. But a video like this one takes some time. And I know I said I've been going through some shit for a while in my last video, alright? But listen, when it comes to a video like this, alright, I just gotta ignore all the extra bullshit and I gotta suffer because this is a topic we need to talk about. I mean, it's been 5 years, right, since Carti dropped Whole Lotta Red. I mean, I was in college when that album dropped, and now flash forward to today, I'm trying to figure out how much shit I can write off on my taxes. And since then, we've only gotten a couple of singles, some 8 features, and a shit ton of fit pics. But after the constant blue balling, the constant lying, the AI controversy, the being a shit father drama, and then there's the whole abuse drama, we finally get I Am Music. And even on the day that it dropped, it still felt like a rug pull because this man didn't drop the album until 7:32 a.m. Because it's not a Carti rollout without unnecessary delays. I mean, it's kind of like this guy takes his music advice from Kanye himself. Oh wait, he does. But let's get straight to the point, right? Let's ask the big questions here. Was this worth the 5-year wait? No, it was not even in the slightest. Does that mean that this album is bad? No, not exactly, but you would think that after the 5 years that the average Carti fan had to wait and go through all this extra bullshit, you would think we'd get a more quality piece instead of just mid at best. I think my biggest criticism comes with this album being 30 tracks at over an hour in length. Like, I don't know if I've clarified this in previous album reviews, but I'm very against long albums like that, you know? Like, I like Carti's music personally, I'm not gonna lie, right? But I do not need 30 tracks of whatever the hell this album was. I mean, I could probably just cut this straight down to the 12 best tracks right now, and that would be a lot better than what we were given. I mean, just off of the top of my head, the 12 tracks I would choose here, because I wrote it down, of course. Pop Out, Philly, K-Pop, Evil Jordan, Radar, Rather Lie, Charge Them Hoes a Fee, Crank, Good Credit, Jump In, Twin Trim, and HBA. But as for the other tracks on this album, including some of the ones that I mentioned actually, they're mainly just unfinished, unpolished toss-ups that I feel like won't really get a lot of playtime. Especially when you have tracks with great beats and just wasted lyricism, such as with the track Crush featuring Travis Scott alongside Carti, in which it's just them doing a bunch of vocalizations and ad-libs alongside some of these nice little choir vocals that I thought were a nice little addition. But as for Carti and Travis themselves, I feel like they didn't do shit for this song. I don't know why it was just a bunch of ad-libs. It was just such a wasted beat. But there were also quite a bit of features on this album as well, including the previously mentioned Travis Scott. We got The Weeknd, Young Thug, Ty Dolla $ign, Jhené Aiko, Lil Uzi, Skepta, and we also got Kendrick Lamar. But it's not just one Kendrick feature, but we actually surprisingly got 3 snuck on here, including a remade version of Mojo Jojo. We also got him on Backdoor, and then we also got him on Good Credit. But I do have slight criticism because I personally feel like we did not need Kendrick 3 times on this album. Especially on the track Mojo Jojo, in which he just does a bunch of ad-libs, which I feel like took away a lot of appeal for me on that song. I mean, it just sounds really silly just hearing this dude in the background just say just all sorts of random shit. Like, I don't know what the thought process was with him on that song, but I just wasn't a fan. As for Backdoor, I mean, it was alright, but I feel like none of the artists, including Jhené Aiko and Carti himself, I feel like none of them really worked well, just really meshed together on that track. It felt very lackluster. I thought the beat was just kind of boring and formulaic. It was a very forgettable song for me. At the same time, it kind of reminded me of that song Feel Like Dying from his previous album Whole Lotta Red, if y'all remember that song. They kind of had like the same vibe to it if you really listen to it. But as for Good Credit, I will say that this is one of the better songs on the album. I feel like Carti slid well. I love the instrumental, and I love just Kendrick coming out of nowhere with his quick and choppy flow to give us a major highlight on this album. But as for the other features, I feel like Travis Scott did as mediocre as you'd expect Travis Scott to do. I mean, I feel like his lyricism, his musical integrity, his energy, it's all greatly dwindled so much since post Astro World, and everything he's put out, all of his features, even Utopia, just when I'm listening to it, it all just feels so boring, and he's still on the same vibes here on this album as well. Unfortunately, he was given 4 slots on this album, and the only track that actually worked out for him was Philly, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's all clearly a formula for him in the same sense that like a piano is for Polo G. But then moving on, there was also Young Thug and Ty Dolla $ign on the song We Need All the Vibes, and while I can say that I am very disappointed in this song, at the same time I'll also say that I'm not exactly surprised. Because I mean, on one hand, on Young Thug's part, right, the man is on like the most strict parole of all time, and which includes the music that he puts out, including his features. So it's not like he can just say all sorts of shit like how he used to be able to. The guy actually has to watch his mouth, so he gets a pass. But as for Ty Dolla $ign, he's just such an amazing singer, but gosh, he has just such the most mediocre performances. Like, he could do well on a chorus, but then, you know, I would hear like his verses, or I'd hear his own music, and I just turn that shit off because I just don't care. It's like listening to Bryson Tiller for me personally. Like, you know, I know he's a great singer, blah 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 blah, but man, it's like when I hear him, I just don't care. Everything feels very boring. It's mid. Just turn that shit off. There was also Skepta on the track Toxic, but I'm not gonna lie, once again, I just didn't care. Not to say that I don't like Skepta, because I do. I love Skepta, but at the same time, the guy's been giving me that sort of Travis Scott level of mid for like the past like year and a half now in terms of his own shit. So I've just been very whatever whenever he does anything. So at least I'll give him this. At least he actually, you know, has any sort of lyricism, even still this far into his career, in comparison to Travis Scott, in which Travis is just saying all sorts of just random shit as long as it rhymes. I also think the track Toxic is funny because Carti kind of sounds like Future if he was rapping through a spinning fan blade. There was also The Weeknd on the track Rather Lie, and while I did say I would have this on like my 12-track redo, at the end of the day, I still feel like this song was meh. I mean, for me personally, it's just so formulaic to the point where it's kind of annoying. But to be fair, I was never really the biggest Weeknd fan, so my opinion might be a little bit biased here, but I feel like he only really elevates the annoying factor on this song for me. Like, this feels like one of those TikTok songs that like the e-boys would post up. Like, it just doesn't do much justice for me. But the instrumental, it just feels very basic. It's a very generic song structure from beginning to end, to top to bottom. There's nothing here that serves for me aside from it just being catchy. And then there's also the fact that this song has been claimed to have a little bit of AI on it, which, whether it's true or not, hey, I'm not the judge to say. I'm not a computer. But what I will say is that Timeless was AI. It was exposed to be AI, and that was a previous Carti and The Weeknd song. So if this is also AI, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be very disappointed. As for the other features, there was Lil Uzi, there was Future. I mean, they didn't leave the strongest impressions in comparison to, let's say, The Weeknd or Kendrick Lamar, but I still mess with it nonetheless. I think I'm just happy to hear Uzi on the track Twin Trim and Jumpin', finally giving me some of that old nostalgia that I was looking for when it comes to Carti and Uzi. But of course, with an album of this level of popularity and hype, there is absolutely no surprise that there's a bunch of drama layered behind this. I mean, the biggest thing that I saw, aside from the whole AI thing, was the fact that Kendrick Lamar was featured on an album of such a problematic person such as Playboi Carti. And while people have made their fair opinions and judgments, I'll keep my opinion blunt and very straightforward. So firstly, I mean, the man did say he wasn't your savior, and while yes, you can call him a hypocrite, and it doesn't necessarily make him immune from criticism by just saying that, at the same time, I feel like y'all expected a little bit too much from an entertainer. I mean, the dude was saying that he wasn't your savior while having Kodak Black featured on the same album, so clearly this guy's moral compass is only twisted to whenever it's convenient. And I don't know if I've said this in a previous video, but I mean, I guess I can just say it now, but I feel like hip-hop is a genre that has been layered with so many problems going back so many decades, right? That goes way beyond the music at this point, that I feel like Kendrick collaborating with an abusive deadbeat is like the least surprising thing, in my opinion, for an artist. I mean, it's been proven time and time again that these guys have a very, very twisted moral compass and only really work with whoever benefits them, because that's just how the entertainment industry goes, and Kendrick Lamar is not the exception. So it's either I listen to the song or I don't listen to the song, but either way, it doesn't change the fact that Kendrick's just gonna come around and make another preachy Black Power album that y'all niggas will dick ride until the cows come home. So, I mean, as I see it, this is the entertainment industry. Everyone's a piece of shit until proven otherwise, and that's just the reality. But as I said before, there is an AI issue that people are calling out that I feel like greatly dwindles the quality of this album for me as well, if it is true. I mean, I feel like it hurts even more when you realize that the man had 5 years to work on this album and had the audacity to use AI, automated robotic bullshit, just to be able to do the work for him. It's like, bro, you're not even the most lyrically inclined person in your XXL freshman class. I mean, you couldn't at least just make some shit up like Young Thug does? And I know it's a lot of back and forth between whether it's AI or not, but even still, the fact that we're having this conversation just shows how low the bar has been set in mainstream music nowadays. Art requires creativity, and creativity, I feel like, requires an organic process, which comes from us as real people. If you are running automated systems to try and replicate this process, it is no longer art. It is just a cheap imitation of what could be. But as stated before, I'm not a fan of Carti using AI on an album which he should have spent 5 years working on, but clearly this just shows the amount of work that he actually put in these past 5 years, which is barely anything. But as stated before, this album, it's not terrible, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not worth the 5-year wait. I mean, we're talking terrible mixes, subpar performances, cheap beats, too many tracks, and AI garbage. I mean, there's just too much hype for an album that just sounds like the label forced it out, which they probably did when you look at the evidence provided, but that's for another video. I mean, honestly, I'm a little disappointed. If anything, I'd say this is Carti's worst project to date. I mean, and I'm not even just talking like on an album stance, I'm talking genuinely. This is Carti's worst project to date, going lower than Self-Titled, lower than Whole Lotta Red, and way lower than Die Lit. But at the end of the day, the album's only been out for so long, so who knows, maybe my opinion will change as time goes along, as I keep listening through, because there are a couple of songs that I did save in my playlist that I did like, so I'll keep running through it. I'll let it sink in. Maybe by the end of the year, or maybe halfway through the year, I'll have a little bit more of a positive opinion to give towards this album. But as of right now, I'm disappointed. This was all a waste, and I wasn't really a fan. And at this point, I feel like he wasted a lot of potential that this album could have had. But that's just my thoughts on Music by Playboi Carti. Give me your thoughts down below. If you listened to the album, did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you feel like this album was worth the 5-year wait? Or did you just think that this album was dog shit from top to bottom? Either way it goes, I'll see you guys next week. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being patient with me, but I always just love dropping a certified hood classic for you guys. And I'll see you next week. Peace.
I'm looking for